This is what I watch for pleasure and joy.
What the fuck? Hello, everybody, and welcome. I am, as always, Bud Robinson. This over to my left tonight is Town.
Hi.
Doing the old salute. We are Leon-less tonight. He wins.
For now, he might appear at some point. It's fucking
might.
Leon.
Yeah, that's
but
true.
normally when we start this, he's a little more like he pops on once because he woke up. I don't even think he woke up.
I mean,
okay. First of all, I just want to talk about Hulksters in the house. Okay, because I just watched the video fully for like the first time. Like I listened to the song. Kim Jong, I think it's Il, right? Or is it Un? I can't remember which one it was. One of the leaders of North Korea is in there.
Great.
Just a random picture of him, and I'm trying to process why he would be there, unless somebody put it in to be funny. But it looks like a pretty much legit music video of Hulk Hogan, right? Am I wrong?
What?
Like, I don't know. Like, I'm just sitting there. I'm like, what the fuck? Why is this here? It doesn't make... It's not relevant to the video.
Oh, good lord. I don't know how we get back from that.
It's weird. 2 minutes and 5 seconds if you watch the YouTube video. 2 minutes and 5 seconds. There's just a picture of Kim Jong.
They also have some shit from, like, What? So the way that this is framed, they have, like, some dictator propaganda stuff on here. Like, I don't know if it's all North Korea. This looks like China, but I could be wrong. But, like, it looks
Perhaps
like they lined it up with the music. Like, they're trying to insinuate that they are down with Hulkster being in the house.
Hey, Hulkster's in the house, bud. We gotta respect that.
Kim Jong-il very much respects that. What the fuck? I don't understand. Let's just talk about this tonight.
The Hulkster's in the house.
CM Punk for the third week in a
row. Check him out. I don't have any CM Punk things to talk about tonight. He's coming back. They're going to put him on supposedly on the Saturday show. Mm-hmm. The Elite doesn't want to work with him. They'll have to sort it out. I don't even know what to say anymore. They got to sit down and talk. That's where it is. They just all need to get in a room.
What I heard from the snippet that I heard from Brian Alvarez was that...
I love Brian Alvarez.
Yeah.
I do.
I dig him.
He's just... The way he talks about stuff, I really like him.
Mm-hmm. And he's really funny. Like, he can be really funny.
Yeah. But he also gets it, and he when he fucks something up, he's like, yeah, I fucked up.
Yeah.
So.
But anyway, he said that he was reporting on what he heard about, but somebody else, I don't remember who, had said that the phrase soft brand split was discussed. That anybody who is willing to work with CM Punk would work on Saturday's show. And Alvarez said, I never heard that phrase, but that doesn't mean that it didn't happen. It just means that I didn't hear it. And I also, what else did he say? He said that he just said there are people that do not want to work with CM Punk.
I do think if they sit down and they kind of hash it out and they talk about what happened, I think they can solve it because, like, let's be adults.
So I have thoughts on the soft brand split, but I want to go over what you just said. I think
trust is the issue.
I don't know if the issue is the Elite, because I think if the Elite was upset about what was happening, like what happened at Brawl Out, I think they would have tried to reach out. Because clearly there was miscommunication. We had that issue already. Why would they now just do it again? I could be wrong about that. I think, like, if you look back at the interactions that, like the public interactions that Hangman Adam Page had about CM Punk, his promos. I'm saying it weird, but his promo and Eddie Kingston's promo. Eddie Kingston in particular tends to blur the line really well because he tends to bring up shit that is true. So when he said, what, a year and a half ago at this point, 2 years?
Yeah.
When he said, we don't want you here, like, there's probably a grain of truth in that. Or maybe not. I don't, like...
I think so, but I think when you think about how this company started, it was this group of guys that got together, they did something really crazy, and they didn't have, like, a ton of help. Like, they had Jericho and they had Mox. But to me, like, Mox is more AEW than WWE.
Yeah.
At this point. And Jericho is, like, he's the guy that I look at and I say, he's the one that came over and he's teaching the guys how to work, because he really is.
Yeah.
But you have this thing, you have this group of guys, you have this really good core, you start building it, you get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and all of a sudden this guy who hasn't been around for 7 years that your boss wanted to hire comes in, and he thinks it's going to be harmonious, but those people that are there that built that, they have egos. And you bring in another guy who, rightfully so, CM Punk has a huge ego, but the shit he was able to do was incredible. So he comes in and it's just a mishmash of egos, and those guys feel like, well, fuck you, we don't need you, we did this without you. So I can see that side of it. And then I can see Punk kind of being like, well, fuck you, I'm a bigger star than you, which is pretty much what he did. So I can see how that piece kind of happened. And then he comes in, and like we've talked about so many times, he's such a prickly dude.
Mm-hmm.
And you start talking to him, and he might start rubbing people the wrong way, even though he's not trying to. Because look at Danhausen.
Yeah.
Danhausen loves Pepsi Phil. And so, like Brody King loves CM Punk.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's more people in that company that like CM Punk than hate him. The problem is the people that hate him or don't want to work with him are very, very vocal about it because of what happened. And if you're in that locker room and you're a day one guy, and that shit goes down, whose side are you going to take?
Yeah.
Well, you're going to take the elite side.
Yeah.
And that's what everybody did. So I think this just falls on Tony Khan managing this locker room.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's doable.
Yeah.
And I think that the money match, if you put Punk against Punk and FTR against the Elite in London, that's the match.
Yeah.
That has to be the match. That has to be the match.
Yeah, but everybody has to agree.
I agree.
Like if it was Vince, he would say "fuck you," or "you're doing it anyway."
But I mean,
Tony Khan
honestly,
is not.
You tell me a bigger match. They don't have one.
Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar.
Fuck
oh fuck! Leon's not here. Leon's not here. I went into my shtick. I'm sorry.
But no, that's the biggest match.
It is.
That's the biggest match AEW has,
Yeah,
and that's gonna draw eyes of people that don't normally watch wrestling, which is always the goal.
Yeah.
Because you want to create new fans. So, to be honest with you, I don't know how gung ho I am to have a second show or a third show.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I'm sitting here and I'm just like, I love Dynamite, and I love that it's just Dynamite.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll watch a second show, but I already know what's going to happen.
Rampage is fine.
Shit. I don't watch Rampage enough. There's nights where I'm like, fuck yeah, let's watch Rampage. There's other nights where it's like, I go to the gym, I get home, and I'm like, fuck it, I do something else.
Yeah.
But Rampage has been highly forgettable. They have solid matches.
They've been. Yeah. I mean, they've been pushing it. They've been booking it more solidly lately.
Yeah, but they just don't put enough on there.
Yeah.
And I just look at like a second show, and it's like, I don't know. But if you bring Punk back and he starts eating up TV time, okay, then I see a second show. Because Punk ate up a fuck ton of TV time.
Yeah.
And he took away time from like Danhausen and Cassidy and the Acclaimed and all those people that when they left and they started to pick that up, like that's one of the reasons that there's been this resurgence of the AEW in the past few months.
My biggest issue with this whole thing is that, like, in particular, having a separate show specifically for CM Punk. First of all, are you going to do that for all your wrestlers? No, you're not. And those AEW guys who are homegrown AEW guys are going to know that. And like they're not going to appreciate that. Second of all, you're going to come up to a situation. I'm sorry, it doesn't matter how good you do booking, promoting, whatever. You're going to come up to a situation where one of those shows is going to suffer. Like, you can't have 4 hours of television, or 5. I don't know how long this Collision is. You can't have
2.
You can't have 5 hours of television and expect all 5 hours to do great. You just can't. Nope. So you're going to have a swath of fans who watch CM Punk on Saturday. And you're going to
That's the other thing, though. I think you're almost creating that division amongst the fans. Yeah. Some of the fans are going to be like, fuck the Elite, I'm watching this. Well, fuck Punk, I'm watching this. Is that going to have your audiences? Or are we going to see Dynamite go from like, are we going to see Dynamite go from like 900,000 to like 7?
That's my thing. It's like one of them is, you can't, it's not going to be equal. It's not. Mm-hmm. You're going to have people who, like, one of these shows is going to do better. And I don't know which one it's going to be.
The other issue that I have... The other
one is just going to, like...
Who wants to watch wrestling at Saturday night at 8 o'clock? I mean, like, people aren't going to be there. It's not like Wednesday. Wednesday's easy because, like, it's work night.
Yeah.
It's on starting Saturday. Well, Saturday I have to go do this. I have to do that. I have to do this. I'm going to watch a UFC pay-per-view, so I'm not going to watch that. Mm-hmm. I have to watch... There's a good college football game on. Like, the beauty of Wednesday is that it's not getting affected by anything else.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true.
I don't know.
Too, for the same reason. Like,
the Friday gets preempted a lot, though.
Yeah, that's true.
Sucks.
That's true.
Yeah, Friday sucks. It'll be interesting to see. I'm curious, kind of the way they go with that. But
so it's like the motto of this show. It's like my motto on this show. If anybody can do it, AEW can do it. This is the first time where I'm like, I don't think you can do it. Like, prove me wrong.
I don't think they need a second show.
My hope
that's my issue. Unless that becomes the ROH show.
Yeah, I could see that.
But if I'm TNT, the name I want on the show is AEW.
If they can get if they can get licensing rights to, like, AEW has 3 years of backlog at this point.
Yeah,
they know they have wrestling fans. They're going to be okay with having ROH and their gigantic library of, like,
yep,
we'll
put Punk there. Put Punk on ROH.
Why not? Like, yeah.
I'm looking at it and I'm that second show kind of has me like, I don't know. You're kind of in that same boat. Yeah. Changing subjects.
Yeah.
Dax ended his podcast.
Yeah.
Because it's doing more harm than good.
Okay.
And did you read that?
I didn't. I just saw the headline.
So what he said was that I want to help the business and I'm hurting the business. Because everything he says becomes so... people take it and everything's so polarized.
I see. Yeah.
And that's not just in professional, that's everywhere. But like in professional wrestling, it's like he said something about Jim Cornette. And he said that, hey, I don't agree with everything Jim Cornette says, but when he was talking about this one thing, he had a really good point. And that pissed off like 50% of the people that watched the thing. Mm-hmm. So 50% of the people were like, you piece of shit, you can't like Jim Cornette. And then the other 50% were like, Jim Cornette's the greatest of all time. So like, welcome to the world. So he's just in... He keeps accidentally stirring the pot.
Yeah.
But he's just kind of shooting from the hip, talking like, yeah, I want Punk to come back because Punk's a good dude. I like him, and he wants to work. Mm-hmm. And people are getting pissed at him for that. And then he talks, like I said, the Jim Cornette thing. I think this was Sunday. I was playing Madden. I know it was strange, but I'm trying to play it a little bit. But I was playing that, and I was listening to podcasts, and it just flew. I was flying through like clips of wrestling podcasts, and I heard a Jim Cornette podcast.
Oh no!
Talking about the CM Punk coming back.
Uh-huh.
And it's hard to listen to him when he calls Kenny Omega Twinkle Toes McFuckface, because that's what he calls Kenny Omega. Well. And he criticizes the Young Bucks, the dipshits from Cucamonga. And he just hates them because he doesn't understand their style. And I think that's a big problem with Jim is he doesn't understand their style.
Yeah.
Because he's stuck in 1987. He hated the Attitude Era for the same reason. But he kind of had the point of the one thing I got out of that was like, yeah, okay, that's true, is he was talking about Punk coming back. He was talking about Punk working with the Elite, and he said, you have to do it. You can't not do it in this business. That is something you have to capitalize on. That's how you're going to make money. And if you don't want to do it, then Tony Khan needs to be the one to step up and say, how are we going to do it? Let's do it. And that's true. And I think that's true. That was the only thing I agreed with. He was talking other shit, and I was just like, oh, God, you're such a fucking idiot. He's not, but he is. And I can't tell if he's like being legit or if he's playing a character, because I think he gets a lot of views for being it's like he's working.
Yeah, I've read a lot of people who know Jim, like we're buds, who know Cornette and but don't agree with the person that he's being in this podcast, and they're like, yeah, he's doing a bit, like he's living his gimmick. He's made a gimmick, and this is what
he has to be, because he's so. I listened to him review WrestleMania 2, and he was critical of that as well.
Yeah.
So, but he just.
I don't agree. Like, I think that all parties need to be on board. Punk seems to be on board. I imagine Omega.
I agree with you. I agree with you. But it's Tony Khan's job to make that happen. Like, he's the one that has to finagle that, and he's the one that has to massage that into happening.
Yes.
What a strange word I just used. Massage.
It's oddly
all
sexual.
Right, Kenny, I'm here to give you a massage with these oils.
I look at that situation and I'm like, yeah, okay, you can make a butt ton of money out of that. And Vince would have forced them to work.
The only thing that I agree with you on this,
but like,
what do I agree with you on this is this: if you force those guys into it and they're not comfortable with it, it's gonna bomb. Because you have to actually be invested. And a big thing, if I'm the Young Bucks and I have to work with Punk, am I going to trust that guy? And if I can't trust that guy, am I going to put everything into it? Or am I going to be really guarded and not want to do it? But again, that comes down to Tony Khan pulling that together. So.
He's got to sit everybody down. Like, he's got to make it work.
Yeah.
If that's what if
making it work means we're not going to do it for a year,
mm-hmm.
we're going to come back and we're going to kind of get some momentum with what's going on. Here's my other question: is Punk's contract is up in a year?
Okay.
Give or take, because he signed a 3-year deal. Right? Was it 3 or 5?
I thought it was 5.
I thought it was. I thought it was 3.
It might be 3.
I think it's 3. So are they gonna make his contract longer because he was out hurt, which they do?
I've heard that they are for the 9 months he was out.
But do we resign him?
If Tony Khan has gone through this much trouble to get CM Punk back on the brand, and he's gone through this much trouble to
Warner wants him on there. That I know for a fact.
Yeah. Like, why wouldn't you? He's gone through this, like, his locker room.
I don't think
it was full of the locker room, but like a fair amount of the locker room did not want to work with him. In any other case, they would have said bye. Because it seems like, from what I've read and from the way that it happened, that CM Punk was the one that wanted to leave, not necessarily Tony Khan. So you don't put that much time and effort into a talent
if you're not going to run with them.
Keep him for a year and then say bye, you're gone because you did too much damage. Now, if he comes back and he only has a year left, 2 years left, and he just fucking ruins the company, yeah, get rid of him. But like, he wants to work. That's important. He wants to do the thing. He wants to wrestle for AEW, and that's awesome. He wants to help AEW. He was awesome.
Dying to be a heel, and that was from last run. You could tell. And I don't wonder if him being a heel is going to be the difference maker for him. Okay, we need to stop talking about CM Punk.
That's not going to happen.
Did you watch Dynamite
tonight? I did not. So I'm going to pull up
for 2 hours
because I don't remember. Ooh, Jay White versus Commander.
A really good match.
I believe
Commander is fucking going to be that guy. He's a star. They just have to figure out a way to make him. Mm-hmm. Jay White, I didn't agree with how they booked it because Commander kind of beat the shit out of Jay White, then Jay White pulled it off at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought if you're having a guy come in, and then they beat up Sean Spears. and then Ricky Starks ran out and made the save. So like Ricky Starks and Sean Spears are kind of a buddy thing. I love Sean Spears.
Yeah,
I do. I always have. I really like Sean Spears, but I don't know what the deal is. They opened with a 4-way promo. With Jack Perry, Sammy Guevara, Darby Allin. And then MJF came out after they made fun of each other and tried to like quote unquote shoot.
Mm-hmm.
And boys, there are levels to promos, man. And Darby's not there. I love Darby, but his promo, he was struggling a little bit tonight. He was tripping over words and stuff. Mm-hmm. Jungle Boy's promo was fine, but not like earth shattering.
Mm-hmm.
It was fine. Guevara's a cock, but Guevara can't do anything but be a cock.
Yeah.
Okay, but so it was a really cool little promo. And then when MJF comes out and he starts talking on the mic, it's just like, okay, this motherfucker's like leagues above these guys.
Yeah.
He's so fucking good.
Yeah.
That's an interesting feud though. And they created a tournament to see who's going to face MJF at the pay-per-view.
Mm.
And then in the main event, MJF fucked Jungle Boy over, so he lost.
Mm.
So Sammy Guevara beat Jungle Boy, so Sammy's fighting Darby. So I think Darby is going to fight MJF for the belt at the pay-per-view.
That makes sense. They've had some good matches.
I do think they are setting Jungle Boy up to be the guy to beat him, which I think is just fucking brilliant. Because I've been piping that since we started this podcast. That's the fucking guy.
Yeah.
Or Orange Cassidy, but probably Jungle Boy. Danhausen.
I'd pop for Danhausen.
Danhausen and MJF feud would be exquisite. Because one of the things about Danhausen is he's too dumb to insult.
Yeah.
Like you insult him and it just doesn't register with him.
He doesn't care.
But it's just like, oh, thank you. That was okay. He'll turn it into a compliment. That's one of the beautiful things about Danhausen.
I love
and
this. Go ahead.
They're making a Danhausen action figure.
Oh my god.
I am buying it as soon as I can. Like that thing looks fucking cool.
Awesome. There's a Danhausen gif out there somewhere. It's him and MJF, and Danhausen says something like, "We're having fun, right?" And MJF says, "I want to strangle you so badly right now." And I think that's like, if they ever feud, that I think that's going to be the gist of it. Is like, Danhausen is just going to be unaffected, and then when the pay-per-view comes around, he's going to be that crazy, mouth bleeding, insane
demon Danhausen.
Demonhausen.
Yeah.
But I could see Jungle Boy taking it. Like, Darby has taken MJF to the limit. But as we pointed out last week, like, I don't think he wants to be in. He doesn't really want to be in wrestling for super long, which I think is smart.
I just want him to die.
Stuff that he does.
You know?
Yeah, right.
Trying to think what else. Wardlow won the TNT championship tonight.
God damn it.
Just as Powerhouse Hobbs was kind of getting that traction. And Arn Anderson is now Wardlow's manager.
He is?
Yeah. Don't know how. Don't know why. He was out there with Wardlow tonight, and I was just like, it was a really weird match. It was fucking good.
Yeah.
Those two can both work.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they're trying to get Wardlow to do more in-ring shit, which is what they need to do. Because Wardlow's a star.
Yeah.
Like, he's going to be a champ someday. But you just, like, I don't know why you put the belt back on him. He didn't need it. So, I don't know what they're doing with that.
Back and forth. And, like, that whole ping-ponging thing with the TNT championship is just frustrating.
The international title means more. Do you know why it means more? Because it's defended every week. One guy keeps winning. He's putting on the best matches.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if Orange Cassidy's on the show, he has the best match.
Yeah.
Just about every time.
True.
There's a few times where he hasn't. But, like, but it's not because his match was bad. It's because somebody else had, like, an extraordinary performance.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I don't know. That TNT belt is just... It used to mean so much. Now I'm just like, what ifs? What ifs? They did a great angle tonight with Jericho and Adam Cole.
Okay.
They were beating up Jericho, and Daniel Garcia were beating up Adam Cole. And then Britt Baker ran out to make the save and slapped Jericho. And then the Outcast came out from under the ring and beat the shit out of Britt Baker. Ugh. They handcuffed Adam Cole to the ropes. Mm-hmm. And they got a kendo stick, and they acted like they were going to beat the shit out of Adam Cole. They gave the kendo stick to Saraya, and she just beat the fuck out of Britt Baker with it, made Adam Cole watch. And I'm like, good.
Damn.
It was good. It was good. They did a really, really good job with that. That was one of those. That was a Jericho angle. I could tell that one. Like, you know, when Jericho's kind of, they're gonna obviously have a match at the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
I want Jericho to win.
I don't think
he will. I do. I think Jericho needs a big pay-per-view win.
He does. I would agree to some extent, anyway.
I mean, if he loses, it's not going to fucking matter because it's Chris Jericho. But
and it's Chris Jericho. Like he's perfectly fine taking the L. Like he doesn't care.
But at some point, he needs to go to a pay-per-view and win because he's not had a good. I don't remember the last time he won a fucking pay-per-view match. I think it was against the Blackpool Combat Club. Where was that last year? Last summer?
Are you talking about Blood and Guts?
Yeah.
That wasn't even a pay-per-view.
No, it was a pay-per-view. That was a pay-per-view where they played Moxley's theme the whole time. And then Jericho ripped it off, which was one of my favorite moments. And then they won at the end. Mm-hmm. I think that was his last legit pay-per-view win. I could be wrong, but that's what it feels like.
I swear Blood and Guts was not a pay-per-view. I'm looking it up because that's who I am.
That wasn't Blood and Guts, though.
Oh, no, you're right. It wasn't Blood and Guts. It was Anarchy in the Stadium or some
or Anarchy in the Arena. Anarchy in the Arena.
Yes.
Yeah. And they won that, but they lost Blood and Guts, I believe.
Yeah.
Because Blood and Guts, that was on TV, mm-hmm. and that was with that was where Cesaro went on the top of the cage, and Eddie Kingston got pissed.
Yeah.
So, I thought Dynamite was good tonight. Wasn't a huge. The Wardlow match was just kind of like that. Ending was just didn't want to see it. The main event was good. That Four Pillars thing, I'm digging. Mm-hmm. The Jericho Adam Cole thing is probably going to be one of their better feuds.
I think Cole and Jericho are closer in style. So I think
Cole's kind of like a young Jericho. He's too small. He's too this. He's too that.
Yeah.
But that fucker can talk. He's a great heel.
Mm-hmm.
He's a great face, and he can work. Like he's like a young version of Jericho.
That's true.
So
yeah, I'm with you.
There's a lot of potential there for a lot of shit. What else in the wrestling world do we have going on right now, bud?
Yeah, this is the problem I ran into.
It's weirdly just kind of mellow. Drew McIntyre apparently wants out of WWE.
Good.
That is the going rumor. I agree. He's not pleased with what they're doing with him, and I wouldn't be either. My question to you is: does he go to go to AEW? Like, he's a fucking star.
Yeah, but he could go anywhere.
But how would he fit into AEW?
They have a lot of big guys in AEW. They do not have a lot of big established guys. Like, yeah. I mean big guys. You know, like you have CM Punk and Chris Jericho and John Moxley. You have all of these like heavyweights who can go and who like they're veterans, right? But like you don't have that on the big dude side, if that makes a lot of sense. Unless you count like Big Show, but he's not really wrestling.
Well, it's the big slow
Captain Insano, which I don't even know if like he talked about doing that, and I have yet to see him actually do it.
I thought he did it.
Did he?
But I thought he did it on like an episode of Dark.
That's possible.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'm Drew, what I would do. There was an NXT match on Tuesday night between two girls, and I can't remember who they were. I think one was like Nikita Lyons.
Okay.
Or no, Tiffany Stratton. It was Tiffany Stratton and somebody else. And it got really rave reviews. Like, people are talking about it. Oh, my God. They're so physically talented, this and that, and da-da-da-da-da. I'm like, okay. So I watched it because I was curious.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, one of the critiques I see of AEW always is they're just going spot to spot,
mm-hmm.
which I actually saw a little bit in the main event tonight. That's not totally false. They are just going spot to spot. They just go spot to spot, and there's no emotion, and there's no psychology. Okay? So this Tiffany Stratton match, I want to know who she fought. NXT Tiffany Stratton versus fucking A. I'm not going to find out, am I? Sol Ruka.
Okay.
Okay. And I watched it. It's on YouTube. You can look it up. They went out there and they had this match that was like fucking phenomenal. Okay, it was a phenomenal match. But there's a big but here. They don't understand psychology, and they don't understand crowd reaction, and they don't understand anything. So what it was is they went out there and they did this match. They rehearsed probably 20 times,
mm-hmm.
and they just went through it. And the match was set up in a way where it was really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
But it had no real like feeling. It had no real psychology.
Okay.
So like, if you're going to criticize the Young Bucks get their shit in, and the Young Bucks have spots, but they also know how to tell a story with the match.
Mm-hmm.
This match was not the case. It was just really, there was really athletic movements. So it was like a choreography match. It was not, there was nothing. There was no psychology to it. Kind of like Dante Martin, when Dante Martin just comes out and does flips.
Mm-hmm.
That's essentially what it was. But people are raving about this, and those same people that raved about that bitch about AEW. So my thought is wrestling fans are stupid.
Well,
because it's not the match they care about, it's the name. So like, if you would have put the Young Bucks versus like Dante Martin and his brother Darius Martin in a match, and that would have been on NXT, and they would have done one of those matches where it was just a crazy fucking spot fest, people would have ranted and raved about what a wonderful match it was. But you put it on AEW, they're going to bitch about it. And vice versa. You know, like Roman and Brock. Roman and Brock have had a couple matches that haven't been bad.
mm-hmm.
If you would put those on AEW and you turn them into like a bloody brawl, like, people would rant about how great they are, but because of where it is, there's that fan base. There's such a split, and I don't fucking get it, because why do you, if you like AEW, why do you have to hate WWE and vice versa? It's not everybody.
I just don't. I don't see, and my exposure to like the wrestling community, in particular the internet wrestling community, is fairly limited. But I don't see AEW fans being as tribalistic as WWE fans.
I don't think they are. I would agree with you. The WWE fans are, well, that won't work because it's not WWE, and it's just like, okay. But AEW fans they're snarkier.
Yeah.
They're a little more well-spoken.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think,
and we also tend to like the match, right? Like, if it's...
So that's another point. If you think about it, like with WWE, those fans get sucked in with a storyline, and they have to have that weird fucking drama. Whereas opposed to like watching AEW, you just put two guys out there that can have a good match people watch.
Yeah.
So it's a different fan base. So I get that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's, and I don't know how many people are like us that kind of could fluctuate. If WWE was great, I would watch it.
Mm-hmm.
I'd watch it. I'd be like, yeah, okay, cool, I'm watching. But it's not. Like, not so good.
It's just like it's a completely different style, and that's fine. Like, if you like that style of wrestling, go watch it. That's fine with me. Yeah. But like I enjoy the fact that I can drop wrestling for 3 months, and if I go back and like watch WWE, they might be doing the same matches they were doing like 3 months ago with the same basic storyline, but like I don't understand what's happening because they're like it's weird drama shit and ghosts, whatever. But like AEW,
Spooky.
it doesn't matter because like, or not just AEW, like Impact, most indie wrestling promotions are like this too. Like they have this mentality where you have your fans sitting there for one show, right? And so you gotta tell the story in that match, because you don't know if they're gonna watch next week. You don't know if they watched last week. I think like that's one of the things that I love about NJPW is that like I can drop back in and be like, oh shit, there's Tanahashi. I love Tanahashi, and like usually there's some kind of story, but you don't really need that for it to be an awesome match.
I think that's kind of it. WWE still has that mindset, and I think that's why they hate AEW. Mm-hmm. Is they look at that and they go, "What the fuck are you doing? It's just a TV show. You don't have to put anything into it." But I think that's why Raw has shitty ratings compared to what it used to.
Yeah.
Because you can't, and maybe they're partially right because like AEW sometimes does too much, but I love it. Not having a pay-per-view every month helps. Not having that, and then you go to the pay-per-view and it's just like, holy shit, that was there's not been a single AEW pay-per-view. There might have been one that I thought wasn't the greatest, but like they're always really good. Mm-hmm. Like they pull it out. The matches are good. Even when Kenny Omega fought Christian in the main event at that one.
Okay.
And I think that was the one that was Punk's debut in Chicago. And Omega and Christian main evented that, and it was kind of like, oh, nobody gives a fuck.
Yeah.
But they had a really good match.
Mm-hmm.
And they tried to build up the feud. They tried to make it seem like Omega might lose, though we all knew he's not losing. Yeah. And then on top of that, people don't even remember that match because then they did the thing where fucking Adam Cole shows up and debuts, and then Bryan Danielson shows up and debuts. So everybody's just like, this was insane. So I mean, it's really knocking shit over. It's really it's just a different way of doing business, and I think it works. I like it better. Mm-hmm. I like it because I think WWE's trying to run shit like it's 1987, and they want that same style. And if they could go back to just squash matches, they would do it. Because you look at those early Raws, and I don't know. I started watching the first Raw, where the main event was The Undertaker and Damien Demento. You fucking remember Damien Demento?
No, not really.
Yeah, he was
we looked
bad.
him up at one point.
Fucking bad. But like that was the main event of the first Raw, and it's just like, it was just basically an hour of squash matches with a main event where like a upper mid card or main event babyface would fight a guy that he should beat. Mm-hmm. Like Bret Hart defended his title when he was champion on Raw once against one of the head shrinkers. There was no way the head shrinker was going to win, but they had a really good match. That was when Bret Hart was starting to really hit his moment or hit his groove. But like that's what it used to be, like superstars on the weekend. Mm-hmm. Like you'd have 14 or like literally 14 2-minute matches with a bunch of segments in between, and it's just like this. That's not what this is.
Yeah.
And they give a guy like Commander, who's not really that well known. Mm-hmm. They let him go out there and make a name. It's just like holy fuck. So. I like it. I don't know.
I think that's another cool thing about AEW is that they're willing to put the time into like Commander is well known elsewhere. He's very well known in AAA, but
yes,
like not in the US. Like
he's all elite, by the way. They signed him today.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
Yeah.
I look forward to seeing more of him. I didn't realize how fucking crazy he was. Because like the ladder match that we saw him in.
Well, I also
everybody
feel like
was kind of like crazy in that one, but like
if you remember when WCW started to get big and they brought in the Cruiserweights.
Yes.
how like the response from the WWF fan base was, well, that's stupid. Those guys are little. Nobody's going to watch them do their flippy shit. And then you started watching Nitro and you were like, holy fuck, these guys are incredible.
Yeah.
And then like Dean Malenko came in. And it was like, that's not a flippy guy, but he's a cruiserweight and he's fucking incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And then Eddie came over. But like they had all those guys come in that were cruiserweights and it was just like, damn. I kind of think that's what AEW is doing.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't have a cruiserweight division. They're just mixing them in. They're giving guys pushes that would never get them. Yeah.
Right. The cruiserweight division in WCW was more about showcasing a different style of match. But there's so many different kinds of styles of matches now. Like there's so much diversity in wrestling these days that like
we were so cut off though back then because you didn't have really like if I don't know if you remember like 90s in the 1990s when you bring a guy over from Japan and this audience over here because that was like tape trading days.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So like they brought over like Great Muta came in and they were able to get him over, but they almost had to like book him like a new wrestler in the NWA. But WWF in like the early 90s was bringing guys over for one of the Japan promotions, IWX or something, International Wrestling Extreme or something like that, or IWS or SWI. I can't remember what it was, but they brought wrestlers over. Two of them fought Demolition at WrestleMania. And like those guys came over and they worked such a different style and it didn't click with this audience because nobody knew what the fuck to expect. You know, and everything was so separate. Like Mexico was different. You knew a little bit about the luchadors, but not much. And they were just kind of like, oh, it's a luchador.
Yeah.
You know, and they never did anything with them. Like in Japanese wrestlers, if they came in, they became like a stereotypical bad guy with an evil mustache doing karate chops.
I think that's the other thing is like AEW knows when those guys came into WWE, they were booked like WWE guys, right? Like, and they're new guys, so like new WWE guys, but that's not their style. That's not how Japanese wrestling is. So I think like Tony Khan and whoever these guys work with, like they understand that because.
Could you imagine Shinsuke Nakamura in AEW?
I'd rather not because it makes me sad. I want to see him in AEW so badly. We'll see.
He'd be so good. I don't think it's going to happen. I think he's going to be a WWE till he quits. They're paying him too much money. But like that's one of those guys where I'm just like, man. When they brought him into NXT, it was so good. And then he got to the main roster and Vince didn't get him.
Yeah.
He can't speak English. What's he doing with that dance when he goes to the ring? And it's like the guy just oozes charisma. And then his work rate is just incredible and he's stiff. And it's just like, oh my God, that guy's great. I love Shinsuke.
But it's not WWE style. That's the thing.
I think Triple H gets it a little better, so I'm curious to see what they're going to do. I'm waiting for them to split those belts and get those belts off of Roman and get your smack. They're doing the draft. So part of what Town's thinking is they're gonna say Roman's on the show with a belt and we're gonna have a new champion on this other show, which I don't want them to do because I think Roman needs to lose both those belts. But you book yourself into a corner.
Yeah.
You know, what do you do?
Everybody who could have possibly beaten Roman Reigns hasn't.
Yeah.
They've lost.
That was the thing. I was listening to Alvarez and Dave Meltzer talk about Roman, and everybody's talking about how, well, what would you have done with Cody if he won the belt? And Meltzer's like, well, here, let me name a list off for you. He could have fought Brock Lesnar at the pay-per-view, first defense. Seth Rollins is out there, and he just starts listing off these names. And then he goes, okay, now let's talk about Roman Reigns. What's Roman Reigns going to do? Who's he going to fight? That was the response.
Yeah,
it's like,
no,
okay.
It's true. Like, I understand that they want to tell a longer story, but they've already told the longest story for Roman Reigns. And so, like...
You can't have a 1,000-day... You cannot have a 1,000-day title reign in this era. And it's so interesting to me because when Hogan got that belt in '85, like the whole business changed, and he was such a star, and business with him was so fucking good. And they didn't really have a next guy. That guy, Hart, was kind of that guy, and Michaels was kind of that guy, but they really weren't.
Mm-hmm.
Austin was that guy. And Austin, the business was so good with him, and it was incredible, and it was like organic, and everybody loved it. And then it was Cena, and Cena got over organically, and then they shoved him down our throats. And the business shit out in 2007. It was unwatchable.
Yeah.
Like, it was unwatchable. And that's when I tuned out. That's when you tuned out. That's when everybody tuned out. But like with Cena on top, it wasn't as good, but he was on top forever. So like Cena's got this really long run as being on top, and it's like, well, he's incredible. But then it's kind of like, okay, but look at what Cena did, and then look what Austin did in 3 years.
Yeah.
One of those things is not like the other. And now you have Roman
true.
with this like this 1,000-day title reign, and it's like you can sit here and you can go back in time and look how long he held the title. Look how amazing that is. It's what they're gonna do.
Mm-hmm.
But then if you actually look at the big picture, it's really not that good.
It's true.
It's just not. It's
like,
just not.
They put all of their chips on this one guy, and it didn't work. But they have all of their chips on this guy, so like they're gonna keep pushing, and they're gonna keep pushing, because that's how Vince does business. Like he puts his faith in one guy, and pushes and pushes and pushes, in hopes that they will click.
Do you remember like 2007 to 2010, 2011, where like the world championship was changing hands like every fucking 2 weeks? Like Jeff Hardy had 3 title reigns for a combined like 32 days in that time frame. You'd win the belt, lose it, win the belt, lose it. Like they had no title reigns. And then Punk had that long reign.
Mm-hmm.
And then now they have this. Well, they're doing the opposite. Now they just keep it on Roman, and it's like, I think Tony Khan hits that number right. You can't have ridiculously long title reigns like for years and years and years, because people just get tired of it.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have one guy run through your whole roster, oh cool, what's left?
Unless you can make it work.
Nothing.
Like CM Punk had a long reign. His worked. It wasn't years and years and years, but like his reign worked.
Yep.
There's one of the women's champions has been champion. Is it Bianca?
Bianca. Yeah.
Like her reign seems great. So like you can do
People
it.
are getting tired. People are getting tired of where they're starting to boo her.
But you have to know when to. You have to know when to call it. You can't just say we're gonna get this 1,000 days, and I don't care who I offend doing it.
Yeah, that's
we're just gonna shit on the guy who's getting the $1,000-day reign.
Yeah. Oh, it's shit, but I don't know.
We have AEW. That's all that matters.
Yeah, I hope WWE. I do. I'm mad at them, and I'm still irritated with WrestleMania. I hope they turn it around, but I'm not holding my breath.
Yeah.
I don't know what change they need. Like I look at UFC when they went with that company that they're with at WWE,
mm-hmm.
and they changed a little bit. It didn't go from who's the best fighter anymore. Now it's kind of like who's going to draw the money. So they're kind of they're not booking that the same way they used to, like making the fights the same way they used to.
Mm-hmm.
So I look at that for WWE and I go, okay, this is money. They just care about money. And I think that's the difference about Tony Khan. I don't think Tony Khan cares about money as much as he cares about having a really good product.
Yeah.
I think he legitimately wants to have the best wrestling product he can have.
Mm-hmm.
And the money's going to happen. And he, again, if they lose money, so what?
I think that's the big difference is he puts wrestling first. And yeah, he's got to keep the lights on. And yeah, he's got to expand. And yeah, he's got to, like there's a lot of things he needs that money for. He can't just say wrestling over everything. But wrestling comes first because that's the company that you're building.
Yep.
Vince does not see it that way. Vince sees it as this is my money-making machine. This is how I make the money. Like,
but I think a good look into like Vince's psyche is 1993 when Yokozuna beat Bret Hart at Mania, and then he lost to Hogan,
mm-hmm.
and then Hogan dropped the belt to Yoko. Okay, and Hogan's gone.
Mm-hmm.
And he's taking time off, and they need somebody else to be a star. So what do? They throw an American flag on Lex Luger because, well, look at the guy. He looks like a star because he's big and jacked. They just threw an American flag on him and made him a good guy.
Yeah.
Even though that's not who Lex Luger was.
Mm-hmm.
And they completely, like, shoved that down our throats, and it completely bombed. And, like, the people, it was almost like, yeah, we want Bret Hart. You know? And it just, he thinks... And I know he thinks this, and you can be as critical as you want as Hulk Hogan. But Hulk Hogan was that dude. He had the charisma. He was good enough in the ring. He understood the game. He has really good psychology. He knows what the fuck he's doing. He came in, they gave him the ball, that fucker ran with it. He was that guy. Lex Luger wasn't that guy. But Vince thinks he can take anybody and turn them into that guy. And I think that's a huge problem.
How many people has Vince groomed to be the next Stone Cold Steve Austin? How many people has he groomed to be the next Hulk Hogan? Like, you look at John Cena, and I think in a lot of ways he wanted John Cena to be the next Hulk Hogan. And in some ways he is. But like I think you're right. I think that's Vince's sort of like go-to. He's got these guys who have been big names, big draws, and he's like, well, we just go back to that well.
Yeah,
but it doesn't work that way. Like,
well, but it's weird because when he got Cena, the business kind of took a weird turn.
Mm-hmm.
Losing Brock Lesnar in, was that 03 or 04? It was 04 because it was WrestleMania 20 when they lost Brock. That was huge because Brock was their guy and Brock was different. And if Brock would have stayed and kept going, he would have been like they could have ran with Brock, and Brock still would have been a huge star.
Mm-hmm.
He became a bigger star by leaving. But like you look at that and you kind of go, okay, so they lost that, then they brought in Cena, and Cena got over in the most like random way.
Yeah,
and it was awesome. His initial run was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Heel wrapping Cena, and then they turned him. You know, he turns face, he wins the belt, and it was about 7 months, and that crowd just shit on him because they booked him like Hogan.
Yeah.
And then they kept trying to do the thing. They did the same thing with Reigns. They booked him like Hogan. Then when that doesn't work, okay, well, we didn't book him like Hogan. Let's get the Authority involved, and let's have the Authority try to knock him down a peg so the crowd gets behind him because they're the small guy. But you just push this dude down our fucking throats. Mm-hmm. We're smart enough to realize you did that, and now you're telling us that you don't want him to be the guy. It doesn't work. The thing with Steve Austin was they didn't want Steve Austin to be the guy.
Right. Yeah.
And he got over really, really fucking big, and they didn't fuck with it. They just let it unfold naturally. Mm-hmm. And the way Vince McMahon turned heel and everything, it was all new, it was all unique. But now it's like, well, we're gonna go back to that. Well, if Vince comes out and Roman beats up Vince, well, then Roman's gonna be a star and everybody's gonna cheer him. And then they do that, and everybody's just like, yeah, fuck it, whatever, I don't care.
Yeah.
You know. So big time issues trying to make the babyface stars. And then when you land one, they had two back-to-back. They had Punk in 2011.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had Bryan Danielson in 2014.
Mm-hmm.
Both of those guys should have just been like, you're the fucking guy, you're the face, let's go.
Mm-hmm.
But neither guy they wanted to do that with. Well, he's not big enough. Well, look at him, he's got tattoos. He doesn't have the right attitude. Da-da-da-da. It's just like, oh my God, if you just would have fucking ran with either of those guys. Could you imagine if, like, and I think, in my opinion, Daniel Bryan was the bigger miss.
Yes. Yeah.
Because that guy, I will never forget when he did the thing with Bray Wyatt where he joined the Wyatt family and then he turned on him in the cage and beat the shit out of him
mm-hmm.
as he's sitting on top of the cage doing the yes thing and he's going super slow and the crowd's going right along with it. I'm like, and even in AEW now, he's that fucking guy.
Yeah.
It's like, you missed the fucking boat.
Mm-hmm.
And Punk they did. And Punk got fucked because Punk should have been in that main event at WrestleMania that year.
Good Lord. Like,
how is he not?
I look at the Summer of Punk. Not often, but occasionally I look at the Summer of Punk and I'm like, they fucked that up. Like, that was just such... And it was
his first pay-per-view, he got pinned by Triple H.
Yeah, yeah.
The fucking beat by Triple H and then Nash cost him the title. It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Alberto Del Rio. It's just like, oh my God. You have this huge fucking star. He comes back. He fucking beats Cena. He gets beat up by Kevin Nash. loses the belt, then loses to Triple H. Then they give him the belt back at Survivor Series, and he just fucking went.
Yeah.
And his reign was great, and they never pushed him to the top. They never did anything with him. It's just like, you guys fucking... And Daniel Bryan was kind of the same thing, but he got hurt too. That didn't help.
Yeah.
So,
Agreed.
should have been Sheik Tugboat, man. Should have been Sheik Tugboat.
They fucked it up.
That's the guy.
Just that's the proto. You know,
him and the Booker
could have gotten 40 years out of that guy at the top. WWE pulling 7, 8, 9 ratings.
But that's another prime example of what we just talked about, because like they're dumb enough to sit there and look at Tugboat. And Tugboat, I personally love Tugboat. Mm-hmm. Love the gimmick. I love it when he turned into Typhoon. Like, he was like a big, strong dude, and he was not that bad in the ring. Mm-hmm. Okay. But he didn't really have the charisma. He really didn't have the personality. But here's Vince McMahon like, we'll just make him a Sheik. We'll make him the heel, and because he's big, he'll be the guy, and it'll be fine. So they were not only going to have him fight Hogan, they were going to put the fucking belt on him.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what? Like, the Sergeant Slaughter thing was bad enough, but I don't know. I don't know, bud. Shit's crazy.
It is.
And the Ultimate Warrior looks like a girl's bike.
I love that picture so much.
It's like the best meme ever.
Now I know why I liked him so much. He looked like a bike.
I wouldn't want to ride that bike. Cocaine and steroids.
Oh, good lord. And that's how we got that outfit. Cocaine and steroids.
Oh, wonderful. But I think we're done.
Yeah, I think we're done. This has been us talking about all sorts of different things. I have been Bud. This has been Town. And so long, officer.